Jimmy Lawson, sir, thank you for first of all making the trek. To you and your lovely girlfriend, thank you so much for making the trek and being in studio. It's a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It was a great trip. You know, came from sparring all the way here for the most part, smooth ride. But you know how that New York traffic gets a little hectic there for a couple minutes. We got through it though.
So I told you a few seconds ago, is there a little something the world might not know about you already?
Yeah, we'll go with this, you know. Opponents, I don't think it really matters, you know. I'm coming for the top, so I'll give y'all one of my secrets. I don't like roller coasters.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel you.
Yeah,
Is it like what is it about it for you?
It's the drop in the stomach, the stomach drop and feel it messes with me.
When's the last time you went on a roller coaster?
Probably about like 4 or 5 years ago. And I went on like Superman and like El Toro.
Oh, you did that one?
Yeah.
That's like the really, really tall one?
No. I think that's King
That's
the
like,
Cobb.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. No,
No, hell
yeah,
no.
no.
Wow. And so then you retired from roller coasters?
Yeah, but like, you know, my girlfriend, she skydives and all that. She's been trying to convince me to do
Skydive,
that. So.
come on. You can do skydive.
I told her once we get to some certain goals in life, we'll revisit it. But right now, you know, it's down on the list.
You skydive? Often?
Well, I did it once. I've never been.
Wow. You got to do that, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
We'll
You're a
work.
fucking heavyweight fighter. You knock people out. You could do one skydive.
Well, that's the thing. I'm a heavyweight, you know. A lot of that force coming down so fast.
Oh yeah, you might come down faster.
Yeah, well, actually, we spent some time in Moab, and I was trying to do like horseback ride and then, you know, bike hiking and like do trails and stuff. I was too heavy to do both of those, so you know, it's always being good being a heavyweight. You know, that's just kind of my thing. I'm
Yeah, but
staying
dude,
away from it.
you look good. I mean,
Thanks, man. Thanks. I put in a lot of work.
I know because I listened to I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was a recent interview after your last LFA win, and I think you talked about you're at 300 at some point. Now you lost 30, 40 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now I'm holding weight around like 275, 280.
So right now, what are you at?
I'm probably like 280. Like I said, me and my girlfriend, we just got back from Moab. We took a trip to Moab to go hiking to see Grand National Arcs Park. I think I butchered the name, but Arcs National Park in Moab, Utah. Beautiful. I suggest everybody go out there. And then we took a trip to Miami. So ate good on the beach.
Yeah.
So I'm a little heavy.
You're living good right now.
Yeah.
You go Moab, Utah, nice car too.
Yeah.
You live in so. Real quick before we kind of get into the flesh of things. I was doing a lot of research. Me and Walter were watching. We just watched your last LFA win again. Good thing about that is that to do research for you, it's pretty quick knockouts. Is that something that I mean, I don't know, you expected when you were wrestling to eventually get into, or is it something that you kind of naturally found your way into MMA?
To be honest, my first time ever like really experiencing MMA head on was when Phil Davis had actually came into the Penn State wrestling room. I was sleeping in the locker room, and he was doing some documentary. This is like when he was making his climb to win the world title the first time. And, you know, I was rocking the bald head. Like, people could pull up the image on Google, and I guess I looked a lot like DC. But that's who he put the camera on me and started he called up DC and like told him he found his twin out of Penn State. And I guess that's kind of where DC kind of pulled me from. Like, you know, I think he knew about me before that, but that was like my first time really talking MMA with anybody. And then a few years after I graduated college, they called me up and gave me an opportunity to come out to Fresno, California. One of my teammates, Ed Ruth, was already out there. I stayed out there for a week, you know, did some sparring with Chopper, Chai, Perry Lewis. They liked what I did. I actually have that original film.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you.
That was the first time you ever did MMA?
First time I've ever done MMA. So I'll show you that later.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a great experience, and at that point I had signed with Zinkin, and that was the start of my MMA journey. But what people don't know is like I had signed to them, and then a couple years later I had gotten an opportunity with the Jets. And once that fell through, I went back to MMA. I kind of decided to give that up, and around that time, DC was going for his title run against Miocic the first time. And so I got to experience the like a month and a half of his training camp, and actually got to work with him during that camp, and that was a crazy experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot I want to get into, but I think for me, I mean, for people that aren't familiar with your story, and you're a humble guy, so you probably won't say it, but I'll let them know. Like, you are one of the probably the most accomplished collegiate wrestlers, and especially out of the state of New Jersey, I think, if not arguably the number one. You won 2 national championships at Penn State. Is it that?
Well, I was an All-American at Penn State. I was on a full scholarship for Monmouth University. So my freshman and sophomore year, I started with football. So I took 2 years off from wrestling.
Okay.
And then when I came back to wrestling after those 2 years of football, I came back for a full scholarship at Penn State, who had already won a national title.
Okay.
But it took me like a couple years to get my bearings back. 2 years out of wrestling is a long time, and then to compete at that level. And I got hurt the end of my junior year, which set me back. But I put in a lot of work that summer with rehab and everything. And I finished my career good. I was able to All-American my last year at Penn State.
But you were a top recruit coming out of high school, right, for wrestling?
Yeah, I was the #1 heavyweight in the country my junior and senior year. I won 3 state titles.
So so it was the 3 state titles. And then why'd you go to football right out of high school then?
That was like my first love. I was really accomplished in wrestling. I had gotten the all-state, all-county accolades with football for high school, but it's my team wasn't winning championships. My best season at my high school was like 5 and 6. So you're not really getting recognition unless your team's really winning or you're carrying them to victory. So I wanted to continue playing football, and I was just blessed to be able to have the opportunity to wrestle once I decided to go back to that.
And what position you play at football?
Defensive tackle. Whew. Yeah, I was 305 solid. So that's like, that's like what I.
And you're what, 19, 20?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're how tall?
5'11".
Yeah, so you packed the shit. So you're 5'11", 305 at like 19 years old? 18, what?
Like 19, 18, yeah.
How big were you when you were 15?
I've been over 200 for a while now.
Wow. Yeah, but you're like a shred, like you're a muscular. You're not like a fat 215 or 300.
Yeah, I mean, I wrestled 215 freshman year. But I also wrestled heavyweight. I was like 220, so I would cut down to wrestle 215. It kind of just depended on where the coach needed me, who the tougher opponent was. So in high school, when I became a sophomore, I kind of grew into that heavyweight size, and the rest is history from there.
Wow. So then you played football a couple years, and then what was the decision to go wrestling again?
Wasn't having we weren't really winning at Monmouth, and I was messing up. I was doing the wrong things, and it just wasn't. I had lost the passion, so I needed a fresh start. I needed to get away from home. Monmouth University is 30 minutes from where I live, so I had a lot of friends that would come visit me. I'm on full scholarship, big man on campus. When I went to Penn State.
Big partier?
No, not so much anymore, but definitely when I first went to college. Yeah, that Monmouth was definitely an awakening for me, and a lot of lessons were learned during that period. And when I went to Penn State, my act was right, and I just wanted to prove myself and do better.
So, I mean, and also Penn State's got one of the best wrestling programs in the country, correct?
Absolutely. They had already won national titles when I went there.
So then, how do you convince a coach, hey, I know I was a great high school wrestler. Can I get a full ride again? I just played 2 years of football, but I want to come back, do the wrestling thing. Give me a full ride. What's that conversation like?
Well, actually, when I decided to go into the transfer portal, news had broke out that I was looking to go wrestle, and the first coach that had called me up was Scott Goodell, to go back to wrestling. He had offered me a full scholarship, and I had talked to him, had talked to Coach Dresser from Virginia Tech at the time, had talked to Tom Ryan, all the guys that had reached out to me when I was a senior, still believed I, had what it takes to compete at that level. But what really set me up with Cal was the fact that, You know, I'm studying, getting ready for midterms. And yeah, I'm not making a decision. I'm just, you know, looking to see what coaches come to offer me. And my mom calls me up one day after I take the test, and, you know, I'm just packing up my stuff, you know, getting ready to head home. And she's like, Jimmy, hurry up. Kale Sanderson and Cody Cunningham are here from Penn State. And it's crazy at the time because I had just watched them. Like at this time, I already knew I was going back to wrestling, so I started to follow what was going on at the college level. And I saw them on TV win national titles with David Taylor and Ed Ruth, and everybody knows that's what started our dynasty run. And to see them in my living room when I walk in was a crazy experience. And you know, it's crazy every time I tell someone that, but you know, it's something I got to experience. And you know, they offered me a full ride, and at that point, how do you say no?
Wow, damn. So then, was the transition back into wrestling difficult?
Yeah. First, my body was completely into football, and they had bulked me up. Like I said, I started my freshman and sophomore year as a defensive tackle for Monmouth University, and they had bulked me up to 305. So just getting used to that type of attrition you need. Like wrestling is such a like the leverage, the low level is the same, but when you're playing a position like defensive tackle, like what my body does opposed to what it does in wrestling is different. You know, that stop and go opposed to like just having like a steady motor just constantly going.
Damn. And so then you have a very successful career at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? So you try out for the Jets, correct? Then you try to go back into football.
Yeah. Well, when I graduated, actually, it was like one of the last days we were having like practices and stuff before school broke out. Like I stayed to do the wrestling camps over the summer, and I guess Coach Franklin, he was, you know, we have ties with the football team.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had connected one of the Jet scouts to me, and at the time he was a scout for the Cowboys. Something that happened, and if people want to know how that works, like, you know, usually you have scouts, and those scouts are usually at least how someone like me would get an opportunity in the NFL. And he was a scout for the Cowboys, and when he went to the Jets, that's where my opportunity went. And after playing a year of like arena football, going to gather that film, because I hadn't played football since my freshman, sophomore year, they're not really looking at that film. They want to see what I can do now. And so I did that for a couple of years before I got the opportunity with the Jets, and wasn't really ready for that opportunity. And, you know, that's when I decided to go to MMA. And they welcomed me with open arms in San Jose, California, and AKA, and the rest was history.
Yeah, for people who are listening who aren't big MMA fans, I mean, AKA is arguably one of the best camps in the country. Headlined by DC, Daniel Cormier, and Khabib does some of his work over there too. I mean, it's a room full of killers.
Absolutely. You know, just being someone like me, I had the opportunity to learn from DC and Cain. I was both their sparring partners for their camp. You know, Cain for when he came back and tried to make his run when he was preparing for him. Yeah, I was with him the entire camp for that, and then with DC for the trilogy. Well, for all the fights except for the last one with Miocic.
And do you notice, because you in DC, well, you're probably a little bit heavier than DC.
Yeah, but we have like the similar build in the sense where like the broad shoulders, like, you know.
DC doesn't want to admit it, but I'm sure you're a little more shredded than DC.
Yeah.
But what are the wrestling exchange? I mean, that's like, because you guys are like the highest level of heavyweight wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's got to be, in a way, very fun for you, and also for him. I mean, he's probably it's the best work you can get wrestling-wise, no?
Yeah, I mean, but wrestling is one thing, but when we were wrestling like MMA wrestling, that was a whole nother animal. Like with that, it definitely was a tough transition to try to compete with someone at DC's level. Like, you gotta imagine, like, not only is he an Olympic level wrestler, but he's also got that black belt level jiu-jitsu, which is pretty tough to deal with. So that MMA grappling was a whole nother beast, and that took a while to catch up to him with.
Where are you at with your jiu-jitsu?
Right now, I'm a purple belt. Okay. I do work with dudes of higher degree, but on paper, I'm a purple belt.
And do you feel comfortable when it goes to the ground?
I feel I feel comfortable in any part of my game because I know the time I put in. And I have great teachers. I've always had great teachers, starting out with at AK with Ron Kessler, very accomplished jiu-jitsu guy, to coming home. First coming home working with Dante Rivera, UFC vet. He's a great jiu-jitsu guy. And then now I've been with Tom DeBlast for, half the year. And my jiu-jitsu's definitely have gained levels. And he has a lot of heavyweights to throw at me, which is what I like about it.
I mean, I also think that, like, and I was kind of talking about this with Walter before, is like, there are not a lot of heavyweights that can wrestle the way you can. I mean, I could probably count them on one hand. So especially you, I mean, you're so young generally in your career, you're still a young guy. And especially for like an MMA heavyweight, you're incredibly young. What's that like for you, knowing, how quickly you've developed, but also like, man, think about it, like in 2-3 years where you could be.
I'm very humble. I mean, yes, I'm young in terms of the MMA heavyweight, but soon I'll be celebrating my 30th birthday.
When's your birthday?
November 13th.
Oh shit. Well, I guess happy 6 weeks too early birthday.
Yeah, but I've been at this game for a long time, and I've been underground. Like, a lot of my teammates, obviously, they live in the main light with winning national titles. That was one of my goals I wanted to accomplish in college. So things like that keep me grounded. I am not settled with what I've done so far. I want to keep going. Like, I'm done looking at those highlights. I don't look back on that. I want to create more highlights. I want to do bigger things. So that's how my mind's been working. And through this whole pandemic, I've definitely gotten more spiritual and just refocused myself. So I'm just focused on accomplishing that goal, and that goal is to be a world champion.
And a world champion in UFC, correct?
Absolutely. Or whatever organization offers me the best. But I want to be recognized as the best heavyweight in the world, and that I feel like right now is the UFC title.
And I think that, like, and you and I talked. You have an awesome manager in Dave Fish. Shout out to Dave.
Shout out to Dave.
Shout out to Dave and all of Paradigm. But I mean, it's pretty obvious to like hardcore MMA fans like myself that watch it religiously, that know not just UFC fighters. It's very clear that like you'll be in the UFC in a matter of time. And I'm kind of wondering with you, it's like, how do you gauge, and what some of those conversations are like, how do you gauge when and if you'll be, like, do you want it to be the right time? Is there a worry like to rush yourself too quickly into it, or do you feel ready right now?
I feel great right now with where I'm at. But I think my team puts in a lot of work with me, and I feel like for me to make the decision on my own is not doing a service to them. So I feel like when my whole team can agree on, I'm ready, because we don't want to just get there and just survive. We want to get there and blow everybody else out the water. Like, I really want to take over. So we want to do this the right way, and with each opponent, obviously, I'm gaining experience, and like you said, I've definitely gained levels pretty fast. So whenever we can feel like we can get in and dominate everybody, that's when I'll be ready. And right now, I have no problem with going in the cage and lasting a minute or less.
18 seconds.
Yeah.
Is for you, do you feel like when you'll be in the UFC, I mean, there's not a lot of especially now with DC retired, there's really not a lot of heavyweights that can wrestle. I mean, I can't think of any like great UFC heavyweight wrestlers. Do you feel like that's something, or that's really the approach, assuming one day very soon you'll be there, that you want to go with, or is because sometimes guys fall in love with their hands when they find their hands.
My approach is to attack my opponent's weakness. Yeah. Whatever the weakest point is, my approach is always to attack it and embarrass them, and just straight up dominate them within that.
But I mean, you could wrestle your way to the top. You know that.
I could, but right now I haven't really had too many people hit me hard enough to make me not want to throw punches at them. So
you feel like you're falling in love with your hands as you continue to improve the stand-up?
From the start, before I even started wrestling, that's actually how I got into wrestling. And at middle school, I used to be a fighter. I wasn't bad in school, but I was like a pudgy kid, and the jokes led to hands being thrown, and that's kind of like what brought me to wrestling. So I feel like it's always been there. I've always been physical. I think that's what my main attribute is to my wrestling game.
Did you, when you would get into fights as a kid, was it out of, anger, or like what were you like as a kid growing up?
Had the biggest chip on my shoulder.
Really? Why?
Because before I looked like this and got shredded, I was pudgy, but I had the same mentality, and kids would talk junk, and I really didn't need a crowd or anybody to support me to feel my way. I was willing to take everybody on.
How many, you got into a lot of street fights when you were younger?
Yeah, a lot.
Estimate?
It was every other week I had OSS.
Oh, wow.
From like middle school to elementary. When I got to high school, I started to straighten up because, when you get in trouble, you can't travel, you can't go to tournaments. I got certain things. I want to get a scholarship, so I changed my act in high school.
You had a good street fight record though?
I think so. I think, probably close to undefeated.
Close to...
I didn't quit.
Yeah. Wow. But would you like wrestle them, or did you have the wrestling background at that point? Because I feel like wrestling in a street fight is even like can't do anything.
I guess back then my thing was more like the Goldberg spear.
Yeah.
The Goldberg spear, and just go right to just throwing hands.
Damn. So you had the hands before the wrestling.
Yeah.
Wow. But was it like, because you're a very like, I've only known you brief time, but you're obviously a very nice guy. Like, were you always like this, or was there like genuine kind of anger when you were younger that you felt like when those kids would tease you, like you had to show it?
I don't know. I guess I just love to compete. I want to be the best, so I guess that's what motivates me, The very fact that someone else thinks they can be better at me, be better than me at something makes me angry. So I guess that's how I channel it.
What was the exact town you grew up in?
Manchester Township.
Okay.
It's like, you ever see the show The Jersey Shore?
Yeah.
We live 10 minutes from there, but don't be fooled. It's not like that. Not all those people on that show were even from our area.
Okay. So always Jersey though.
Yeah, always a Jersey boy.
I do have a bone to pick with you though.
Oh man, here we go.
I hear you're an Eagles fan.
I bleed green.
Okay, well I'm a huge Cowboys fan.
We ain't gonna talk about football. We can't talk about football.
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if you watched Monday night, but we just beat your ass down.
Listen, there were a lot of things Monday night we ain't gonna talk about. The main thing being that game.
Yeah, I don't know, that 20-point victory. Anyways, what I was gonna get at though is you've always been seemingly every kind of sport you've been into, even the street fights, you've been very good at, right? And for you, do you feel an extra pressure to be very good at MMA? Like, do you feel like the way that your career has gone, right? There's hype around you, whether you see it, feel it, or don't. Do you feel like there's a pressure that you have to be this, get to the UFC and then do really well in the UFC? Is that something that you feel?
It's not pressure because it's what I expect of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think pressure is when people believe something more than you believe it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But, there was a time where, I started this MMA journey and people telling me like, why don't you go do something else? Go get you a desk job. You got a degree and all that. And my response is that I think I can be the best of that one. Generally, when you're the best in the world, that's something you get paid really well for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my mindset. I put in a lot of work for this. So,
what's your day-to-day look like?
I go to the gym twice a day. Start my first sessions at 11. I'm doing my thing in the morning. Then I work out again at 6. Between that time, just my mom's in remission with cancer, so
Thank God I heard about that.
That's the whole reason why I moved back to Jersey. I mentioned that before in my other podcast, but that was one of the main things to help out back home. So when I'm not working out or at the gym getting ready for a fight and stuff like that, I'm a wrestling coach. I do that twice a week. I get my workout there. I go to Tom the Blast in the afternoon. I get that twice a week. I'm always at Killer B. That's my main MMA gym. So I try to be there every day. When I'm not there, I work for my family. We own a construction company in New Jersey. It's been a family business in New Jersey for the last 60 years.
What's it called?
Lawson Septic.
Lawson Septic. If you're in Jersey, Lawson Septic.
Exactly.
But your mom's doing better?
She's doing
Awesome.
she's doing better. We have our things we're going through, but she's doing better, a lot better than where we were last year.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that. And so, okay, so like you're a busy guy, you know, but you're able to, because this is one of the things, you know, obviously there's a lot of talk about MMA fighter pay and all that. You still feel like you're able to devote your full-time profession to being a mixed martial artist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And for you, I mean, so there was one thing I wanted to ask you before is, and you were asked about on another show, but I don't know the backstory, is you were supposed to feature in a Contender Series bout, right? What happened with that?
Well, actually, what a lot of people don't know, because of my sparring with DC and Cain, and that was my first, like, I don't know too many heavyweights whose very first training partners are these guys.
Yeah.
But those were my very first training partners, so there was a lot of expectation from me, and my very first fight was actually part of that 4-fight Contender Series deal. I was supposed to have 2 fights on Dana White's Looking for a Fight.
Okay.
And I was supposed to have 2 fights on the Contender Series. My first fight was against Saeed Soma. I lost that in the decision in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on the Titan FC. And my second fight was supposed to be against Jurgen De Castro for the Contender Series. So I had a 4-fight deal lined up, but after that Saeed Soma fight, they put me at 0-1, and that kind of whole thing kind of fell through because you can't put an 0-1 fighter on TV.
Interesting. And in that fight, because I don't know, it's kind of hard to find what happened. I mean, that was your first pro fight.
Honestly, he's a tough dude.
Yeah.
He's a tough dude, and I did my research, but he had been in the game for a while, and he really knows what type of fighter he is. At that time, I was still trying to figure out what type of fighter I was. I was throwing literally the kitchen sink from the get-go, and as the vets, when you really start to figure out things, you learn how to pace yourself, you learn how to game plan, you learn how to use certain like chess moves to get ahead. It's not just go, go, go. It's not, you got to really get out of that wrestling mindset. Wrestling mindset's just, imposing your will. But you got to be more of a chess player in MMA.
I'm sure that taught you so much.
Absolutely. And, I'm proud of myself because, I didn't get finished. I went to a decision with a very tough opponent, my very first fight.
And then since then, you've just been knocking guys out. Yeah. In a way, though, do you feel like, are you ever like, okay, wait, maybe I'll keep it for like 2-3 minutes so I could show a few more skills? Because, in like the last fight, I mean, to be fair, like people, are incredibly impressed by 18-second knockout, but like you're so much more of a fighter than just, a guy who can knock someone out. Like, because if someone doesn't know your background, right, they see you knock him out, they're like, oh, this guy has heavy hands. Little do they know you're an All-American wrestler. Like, is there ever a feeling of like, okay, wait, maybe I should try to show a little bit more? You're just like, nah, let's finish this thing.
I'm going to keep doing what I do to finish people fast until someone makes me show more. Yeah. I do a lot. I get a lot of work done in my sparring sessions. I work with, like I said, I'm helping. So I got here a little late. I was helping Corey Anderson prepare for that fight coming up with Bader.
Right.
He's looking real good. But I get a lot of work done with that, and Corey's definitely someone that keeps me on my toes, and he definitely earned the name Overtime.
What's it like working with he's not only a UFC vet, he's a legitimately very good, he's fighting at light heavyweight?
Yes.
What's it like getting work with some of those guys? Do you feel like you improve quicker because you work with guys like Corey?
I believe so. It feels like home, weirdly. He gives me the same type of vibe that DC and Cain did. So that's why it works so well for me to be home. Like, I have a place to go when I'm in Jersey that I've been at, and I have a place I can always go back to AK. I still keep in contact with Coach Hav. When I get to that next level, I plan to, have a little reunion with all my people. But, right now, obviously, this pandemic's changed some things, and like you said, I'm a busy man. I do a lot of work from home in Jersey, and that's kind of like where I plan on being right now.
Do you set goals for yourself on like when you want to have your first fight in the UFC or stuff like that, or you let management take care of it?
We're looking at next year, start of next year.
Okay, start of next year for your first UFC bout.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to, I mean, you skip Contender Series kind of vibe?
I mean, I'll leave that up to them. I mean, whatever. I'm with whatever. I'm just looking to start pushing.
Do you ever think about, okay, I want to be UFC champion by X year? Is that how you think or no?
No. At the end of the day, it's a business, and I'm realistic with it. You got a rookie contract, and you know, like Dana said, it's the best way to make a lot of money and get to the top is just be active. I definitely, you know, there's some killers in the UFC, and you know, I want to be paid when I fight those guys, obviously, like anybody else. But I'll face anyone they throw at me when I get there.
Is there anyone that you were like, you know what, I really just want to fight this guy?
No, I don't have any beef with anybody in the UFC. I mean, there's a few guys in wrestling that I wouldn't mind fighting, but I'll keep that to myself until the time comes.
Do you, when you're fighting, I mean, do you have to like switch on? Because what I'm always fascinated, and I've had obviously a lot of fighters on my show, and there's some of the nicest people, like genuinely some of the most respectful, nicest people, but then I would not want to be locked in a cage with them for half a second. Do you feel like you have to switch like a light on of like, okay, I'm, you know, outside of the cage, Jimmy, but now I have to go and take some guy's head off?
Not really. For me, I think that niceness that you're talking about is that humility, because nobody, when you first start MMA, is top dog. I mean, and that's very rare. Someone gets beat by someone, but you know, you hardly ever hear stories about it because we got a code about that type of thing. But you know, it happens, and when people might not know that, that's always in the back of your mind whenever you try to not be humble about something. So I think that's at least what keeps me in line. You know, I think fighters are all built the same way. You don't come to fighting without that in you. So it's once you're fighting, you're doing this thing, it's not a surprise that they're a certain way, because I'm used to seeing those type of guys. Yeah, they look like fighters.
What would you say is your biggest motivator?
To do better. I mean, when I was a young kid, I've always wanted to be one of the best athletes in the world. At some point, I thought that was going to be through football, and you know, God's blessed me in many ways to be able to try to get there. And you know, I'm having a lot of success and a lot of fun with MMA. So that's how we're trying to do it. We're trying to be one of the best athletes in the world with MMA.
I mean, honestly, you have a pretty incredible story because, you know, having the success you did in wrestling in high school, being, you know, the #1 prospect in the country, and then going to football. I mean, there's so many different moments where like you could have said, you know, the football thing's not going to work, or oh, the wrestling thing's not going to work. But here you are, and you know, 29, and you're, you know, a top prospect at heavyweight, and soon going to fight for the UFC one day. I mean, it's a pretty crazy journey when you think about it. And that's only in about, what, 10 years' time? 10, 12 years' time? I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, have you been able to take a second to be like, holy shit, this is kind of crazy that here I am?
I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, you know, I think eventually one of my many things is going to be to write a book about it, you know, so I can talk about it in detail, because there's definitely a lot of different moves and a lot of different things that people don't know about. And, you know, one of my great friends, Ed Ruth, you know, everyone knows he's one of the best Penn State wrestlers of all time, he's one of the key components to how I got into MMA. You know, without him, I would have never really taken the leap to go out there and fight.
Why is that?
Just because he was my roommate at college, you know.
Wow.
I was, you know, Manchester's like, you know, a little bit of a small town. At the time, Monmouth made sense because it was close to home. After those 2 years, I was ready to go out to something bigger, you know, take those trans buses and be in a big school, just a big environment. And that's why we made the choice with Penn State. But a person who helped me get through a lot of that stuff when I first got there was Ed Ruth. So
What were some of the conversations you had with Ed?
Ed's a wild character, so I don't want to go into all that. But you know, he's a great dude, and you know, he, like I said, he was a pivotal part in me getting into MMA.
And I mean, that's a pretty stacked. Were you in the dorm room?
Yeah. So our group was like me, Ed Roof, the Altons.
Okay.
So that was a nice little crew.
And for you, I mean, do you think that like, you know, where do you gauge you're at in your career? Like physically, your body feels good. I mean, do you feel like you're in your prime? Overall?
Oh yeah. I feel like physically I can contend with anybody in the world. You know, and there's a lot of other things going around besides me. Like I'm seeing guys that I've sparred with, like Arjun Sambalar. He's the ONE FC champion. I've had a lot of sparring time with Arjun, you know, and while he was in the UFC, that was one of my main sparring partners. You know, same thing with Bagoy Ivanov.
Yeah,
me and him have had a lot of banging.
That guy's got a crazy ass life story.
Yeah, that's my dude.
Yeah,
that's my dude. But me and him have had a lot of rounds, and you know how tough he is. So even before I got it, or even when I took that loss, I always knew I would be in this position, just because everybody around me is, you know, just there, just ready. It's in them.
What is it about being great that really like sticks with you, that like lights that fire in you?
I guess being like I guess a little bit of a history buff, you know, like the Spartans and all that stuff. They're talking about immortality, you know, how like you know, at some point everybody, you know, dies, right? But what's left behind is your accomplishments. That's like the true meaning of immortality, being able to motivate the people that are left behind to do something, to accomplish something with their life, do something positive, make a positive impact.
Do you measure your success or your, I guess, happiness based on what you accomplish?
No, because it's important to take it step by step and just appreciate life, you know, all the twists and turns, you know. I looked at it collectively. I'm grateful and happy for the ups and the downs of life. So I don't really look at it by accomplishments.
Do you take motivation from some of those maybe down moments?
Absolutely.
Are there any that resonate with you, that motivate you specifically?
Not one in particular. I mean, for me, just I guess one of the quickest things I can give you is like the losses. You know, I feel like I know all the losses I've taken in wrestling in college, and I know all the losses I've taken in high school, and I know the loss I've taken in football. So I feel like those always stick with me. I feel like those stick with me more than the wins, because I always try to break it down to make sure it doesn't happen again. Like, yeah, I get happiness out of winning and stuff, but that's not what my happiness is measured off of. It's measured off of just, you know, the journey of life. And I'm happy the journey I've gone on, to how everything I've gone through, negative and positive, have brought me to this point where it's paying off, where I'm seeing like the fruits of my labor finally flourish, and, you know, people are starting to take notice of it.
Well, I think it's awesome that you're seeing it now. And also, I mean, if you're seeing the fruits of your labor flourish now, just, you know, think about, I don't know, does it excite you to think about what the next 3 to 5 years could be? Because those fruits are looking even better than the fruits that you already have right now.
Nah, I can't do that. I gotta make sure now adds up. Yeah, now adds up to that. You know, if I think too far ahead, you know, I gotta make sure I pave the road now to get to that.
How do you keep your mind straight and relaxed? I mean, any sports psychologist, therapy? Like, I know a lot of athletes, that helps them, or it could be some other things.
Talking to my girlfriend Marcia, and talking to a few of my close friends, you know, keeps me grounded. You know, these were the people that were with me before I accomplished anything or helped me get out of a dark place. You know how it goes. When you're not doing the best, it's a very lonely road. And when you start to climb, you know, light shines on you a lot more people notice you. So having those people around me keep me grounded.
In some of those darker moments, was it MMA or was it something else?
Life, just life stuff, you know, life stuff that everybody goes through.
But was it MMA that was helped you kind of get out of that as a therapy?
Absolutely. Not only has MMA helped me with just, you know, I've become a better fighter and given me an avenue to look for as like a career, but also just, you know, the type of person I am. Like, I never used to do stuff like hiking in Moab. And
You must be in love. I don't know what you did.
nah, it's, oh yeah, but it's not even like that. It's just, you know, just being a lot more in touch with myself, you know, because you could hide behind a lot of stuff and with other sports, you know. I was watching a documentary. Someone talked about being a solo athlete and how it's like different, you know. But MMA took me on that journey, and there's real risk. Like wrestling is one thing, you can get hurt in that, but MMA is a whole nother thing where you can get punched and kicked. So you really have to go on that solo journey to really decide if you want to do this or not.
Yeah, it's funny because when we were DMing quick, you told me you were going on that trip to Utah. And I was like, all right, man. I mean, you know, like that. And it was cool. And some of those pictures were beautiful. But I imagine it's also very, you know, for someone who's working a lot, probably tired physically, at times emotionally and mentally, I'm sure. You know, I think it's awesome that like you take those moments to relax, spend time with your girlfriend, do new things. And I think that like for more fighters especially and more athletes in general, I think those moments, and you could probably attest to it better than anyone, are like super important. I'm sure you're able, like, did you feel like you could embrace it more than, you know, more than some other moments when you have some time off?
You know, absolutely. Especially when you're away like that, you're a whole place new. Like you're taking in everything that you see.
You ever been to Utah before that?
Honestly, I might have went there for a wrestling match, maybe during college at some point, but I can't really tell you offhand. But I haven't been there. I haven't been to a park like that. I haven't been to a national park. That was my first time going to a national park, and it was a crazy experience.
What was your favorite part about it?
Being like going up like a winding mountain, you know, every couple minutes your ears are popping because you're so high, and then when you finally get to the top, overlooking the valley of where all the people live, you know, because you're at this point you're in the national park and you're just overlooking everything, and it's just crazy because over here in Jersey and New York, yeah, we got mountains, but it's not like that.
And you guys went straight from Utah to Miami?
Yeah,
that's a culture shock.
yeah. We wanted to do that, you know, go out, be one with nature, and then go party.
And then go party in Miami. That's awesome. So for you, I mean, what are the next, you know, few months? So do you have you don't have, as you kind of mentioned off there, you don't have necessarily an opponent, but do you have a time frame of when you're fighting?
Yes. So we're looking at early December.
Okay.
December 10th at the latest.
For LFA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be fighting in LFA till the big show. So we're gonna go from there. Originally it was like set for November. Some stuff happened, but I think we don't have an opponent yet. We're still working on that, but it's looking like December.
I feel like a lot of guys probably don't want to fight you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things, but I don't know that like does that happen in LFA?
Oh, in LFA, I have no idea.
You know,
I mean, yeah, because think about it. You're probably going, like, for a guy like you, right? Obviously, you're going to go to the UFC soon. So for another guy who's thinking, all right, I want to build up my career, shit, fighting you is not exactly the way they want to build it up because chances of winning are fairly slim. So yeah, I can imagine a lot of guys are probably saying no.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
You wouldn't want to fight you.
No, you got a point. You got a point.
So I don't know. Yeah. There's probably not. I mean, I would be willing to bet you too that a lot of UFC guys are not going to want to fight you, especially at heavyweight, because like, especially at heavyweight, one takedown and it could be game over quick, you know, especially as you continue to improve your ground game and all that. Having a 265-pound man who knows exactly what he's doing on top is a scary proposition. Yeah,
and trust me, I got a lot of time. And that's one of the things that you know, we can talk about another day, but like watching Khabib and Islam work, when I would not be sparring with DC or Cain, I got opportunities to sit there with Hav and watch Khabib and Islam work, and how they grapple is insane. So it's a work of art.
It really is. And I think that like it's pretty obvious that at this point in time, if you can wrestle in MMA, at the level that you can and guys like Khabib and Islam can, it's just fucking impossible to beat you. You know, because sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 takedowns, and if they don't get the first or second takedown, they'll do it until they get you down.
I wouldn't even call that wrestling. I would call that
just
like grappling, because they're incorporating like jujitsu moves and stuff, and like you could tell when they're grappling, they have no fear to be on their back or any position.
It's also, for me, what I've noticed is it's the way they wrap the legs. It's just suffocating. It's like having like it's like having like a weighted blanket that just won't get off you. You know what I mean? Like somebody who has good takedown defense might stuff 1 takedown, but as you know, like I'm sure guys could maybe stuff like half a takedown from you, but then you're gonna keep coming back and you'll do it until you get it. You know, and I feel like that in MMA, I think right now is probably the most dominant. You know, it used to be like who can strike better. You know, but MMA is developed to this point where like these high level wrestlers, they just dominate.
I'm excited for that Usman Covington fight.
You're gonna go there?
I don't know if I'm gonna go there, but I'm definitely gonna be tuned in, because that's 2 really good wrestlers.
I just got my ticket.
Strike. You going?
Yeah, I saved up. I'm like, you know, I gotta go. Well, come on.
That's gonna be
MSG.
exciting.
Usman. Yeah, I mean Usman's a great, you know, example. I mean, he was obviously a very good wrestler, but not even as technically as decorated as you were. But you just see like his sheer strength is like.
But same with Covington, they just both have
really
that. They both have that pressure fighting style. Like it's not always about how many punches you throw; it's just how you move, and you make your opponent feel.
And
on
it's
edge.
their gas tank too.
Yeah.
You know, and especially for you at heavyweight, it's like if you have the wrestling, the gas tank, and then also you could strike. Guys are not gonna want to fight you. You know, and even guys like, you know, I mean, even like the champ Ngannou, who I love. I think he's awesome as a human being and as a fighter. You know, it's like they don't want to face the wrestlers, you know, because those are the guys that pose the biggest threat. You know, you cannot have the biggest name, but so that's why I'm going to be super interested in seeing, you know, how your career develops. For you, do you want to just have one more LFA fight and then UFC, ideally, in your world?
I mean, honestly, I probably would have fought on a Contender Series fight.
Yeah.
A little bit after I got done with that LFA fight, but my hand was messed up. So that's the whole reason why we couldn't just go right into it. But because now I'm, you know, getting my hand right and getting back into my fighting weight, that's why we're back with LFA. But there was a time where we were just going to go to the UFC.
Wow. Contender Series is fun, though. I was actually at an event, the first event for this season. It's quite the atmosphere.
I bet.
I mean, I don't know, like, have you ever been to watch live the Contender Series?
No, I've not.
Dude, it's pitch quiet, so it's fucking stressful. I'm like stressed out, I'm not even fighting. And because the commentators aren't there, and it's just like, you don't hear anything, like, especially with the Apex, you don't hear a single thing. And you just walk in, and then, especially with your fights, they don't last generally very long. And then, boom, knockout, done, raise hand, Dana's like, whoa. And then you just walk straight to the back. And it's like in a matter of 3 minutes.
Oh, so it feels like a sparring atmosphere.
Exactly. Something I feel like you'll thrive in. But yeah, I don't know if you even have a Contender Series fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that. I don't know what they're gonna do there. All I know is my job's to go out there and knock some more people out. So we'll go from there.
What's it like to have the feeling like there's basically not a lot of human beings that you couldn't knock out? That must be like a weird feeling. I don't know if you ever thought about it like that.
It's weird now that I'm able to do it legally, and I'm and at the same time also getting way better at doing it. Like it's weird all together. Like especially the last fight, because that was the first time I've ever put someone out cold.
Yeah.
And like, you know, for a split second I'm thinking like, damn, this is really legal. I'm sitting here watching him just laid out cold.
Yeah, it is. I even question like if I'm like not a little bit deranged for getting so much pleasure watching things like that. You know what I mean? But like you're actually doing it, so you might even be crazier than I am.
Oh yeah, I mean, you gotta have a little.
You gotta be crazy.
You gotta be a little bit crazy to do this.
Do you feel like right when you knocked him out cold, do you like feel it? Because I've never actually, believe it or not, knocked anybody out.
I mean, I felt like a kung fu master, honestly. Like, it's crazy. Like when you're in the middle of doing something like that, everything's in slow-mo. And like if you go back and watch the highlight, when I threw that big left hook and missed in my face, it felt like forever to bring my arm back and throw something else to hit him. I honestly was thinking like, shit, he's gonna recover. Little did I know that only like a split second had passed in that time.
Is that weird, Marcia, like when you see him like that? Because, like, he's a sweetheart, you know what I mean? And then you see him knock a guy out absolutely unconscious.
Yeah, it's funny, as I was telling him yesterday, how he's so different in the cage versus outside of it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I think you guys are all psychopaths, honestly. All you fighters are psychopaths.
I mean that could be the case, but you know, I'm here to provide entertainment at the highest level.
Exactly. You're a psychopath for like 18 seconds, and then you're a sweetheart outside. For you, if I say 5-10 years down the line, where you want to be? Where's Jimmy Lawson in 5 years, 10 years?
Heavyweight Mount Rushmore.
Easy enough. Do you think about life post-fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of business ideas, but for me, my mind is getting to become a champion or working towards that goal will set me up for all those other business ventures, because I see it like this. MMA is going to provide me with meeting the network and meeting new people, and I know I'm a real and a good solid dude, so I know my energy is going to be infectious, and a lot of people are going to want to work with me. So
100%. And you know, I gotta say, like, I get a lot of these fighters, and you know, you guys are a lot. There's a lot of really solid MMA guys. There's some not so great ones, but you guys are like really like some of the most respectful people, and I've said it before, and you as well. And man, I'm super excited to see how your career progresses, and I just think that it's awesome that like you have people like Dave in your corner, who like they're not just great agents, but they also care about you as a person, and that I believe wholeheartedly to my core. So look, man, I'm excited to see where you go. What do you to wrap things up? I mean, when it's all said and done, what do you want the Jimmy Lawson legacy to be? Pound for pound, greatest heavyweight of all time?
Oh yeah, that's definitely the goal. And I think that goal is realistic in my mind for me. Like I said, I've been about the best wrestler of all time, and Cain Sanderson, one of my favorite wrestlers. Yeah, I was around David Taylor, but before he won his gold medal, so I know what type of work he puts in. And then also being around Khabib, DC, Cain, Luke, like those are some of the greatest fighters of all time. And I've seen all the work that they've put in. I've seen how they train. I've seen all that. I've got a chance to study them in depth of the type of fighters they are. So I feel like, yeah, I'm thinking, man, I could put something together and become the ultimate package with all I've learned. And that's how I see it.
100%. Well, where can people find you on the social medias?
I have Instagram. You guys can follow me at Jimmy Lawson _III. I don't have a Twitter yet. We're working on that. Facebook, I think it's Jimmy Lawson. You just look that up. You should see a fight picture.
Well, Jimmy, absolute pleasure to have you on my show. Absolute pleasure to meet you. And man, I'm excited for your future. And I want to be at that next fight. I want to be at that first UFC fight. I'll be at all those. And man, let's go be heavyweight UFC champion.
Looking forward to seeing you there, Felix.
Let's go, brother.
Thank you guys for having me.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
Jimmy Lawson. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram at felix.levine. And if you have something to say, please leave a comment.